It's time to take a ride on the Steelers Afternoon Drive with our co-hosts, Alan Saunders and Zachary Smith.
Get in the van. We're going for another Steelers Afternoon Drive. I'm Zachary Smith. That is Alan Saunders. Yes, I am back. And it's a Friday. I'm feeling okay. No DB here, so that makes me feel a little bit bad. Alan, how you doing?
Yeah, all it really took to get you back here was just to have Carter on once, and then that was it. And you're just healed. It was fun, just
I refuse.
One day, Chris Carter.
Well, I had said, the previous day was like watching the clip of the backup quarterback that everybody puts out on Twitter. Watching Carter, who is in this space already so much, knows what he's doing here. Not to say that Brennan doesn't, but like Carter's, a vet in the game. I couldn't have this, people clamoring for more Carter. So I felt the pressure even more so, even with me not having a strong of a voice, as everybody can tell right now. I feel like it's given off very much, I was trying to describe it to Alan through text, getting over a cold vibes, I feel like, coming from my voice. But I have a voice, and I'm here to share it with you all. So
you just really did not want Carter to be back.
That's how we'll look. And on a Friday, like I can't miss a Friday episode. It wasn't going to happen on a game week. So we're here to talk some ball, do the regular preview and predictions like we normally do on a Friday, and we'll get there in a little bit. But Alan, I first feel like we just got to always do what we do on a Friday. Let's go over the injuries, who's in, who's out, who do we still not know about?
Yeah, so Calvin Austin's out. Did not practice at all this week with that shoulder injury that is still undisclosed, but doesn't seem like it's going to be a long-term absence. But I mean, I would think not practicing at all this week, you probably assume like Green Bay at the earliest for him. Mm-hmm. And, I guess the hope would be maybe you get in a limited practice next week, but can be without Calvin Austin. And I would expect Scotty Miller to start for the Steelers as an outside receiver, and Roman Wilson to play in the slot with Calvin out. So I think you'll see both of them. But I think you'll see a lot of 12 personnel with Johnny Smith and Pat Freiermuth and Darnell Washington all playing big roles. And I think in 12 personnel, you'll probably see more Scotty Miller than Roman Wilson. I talked to Scotty a little bit yesterday about being a small guy that plays on the outside. Scotty's 5'9" and 1/8, according to his combine measurement. And he played, I think, like 1,100 snaps in his career, and 800 of them are on the outside, which is really rare for a player that size. And especially, I mean, not shoveling any dirt here, but like not a star player, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I asked him about it, and he said, yeah, I played all in the slot at Bowling Green. And then I got to Tampa, and they wanted me to play outside. And he was like, it was like a crash course. And I just figured out how to do it. Focused on his release. He said that he feels like that's the real
that's
thing
what
that if you're that size lets you beat press coverage. He also said that he felt like sometimes like smaller guys weren't ever even given that chance. But then, he comes into the league right as sort of, Tyreek Hill's becoming a thing. Antonio Brown was around, and it's like, oh, there are some of these smaller guys that are having the success. And he said he never played the slot in Tampa. He was all Z and X. And now in Pittsburgh, he has done both, but more outside receiver. And I think it's interesting how like some guys can do it, but like most guys can't. And I'm not really sure that there's like taking it beyond Scotty Miller, who I think is playable, certainly at outside. But like when we're looking at draft prospects, it's so hard to know like which of these guys that have not played outside against press coverage can and cannot do it. And I think you look at those two guys, it's like Scotty Miller didn't do it in college. Roman Wilson didn't do it in college either. Now, like when the Steelers need somebody to do it, they're turning to Scotty Miller, not Roman Wilson. Roman Wilson's 2 inches taller. It's very interesting how that seems to be a skill that is both like rare and also hard to predict who is going to figure it out, who isn't, and at what timeline.
It's actually probably I'd be interested in doing more, digging into it, like other guys that have done it and trying to figure out why the transition was or wasn't successful for them. You mentioned the release package stuff. That's what I was going to bring up. Also, we talked like CBs, outside CBs, talked about using the boundary to their advantage. I think on the other side, receivers maybe have to find a way to either do the same or work around the way the cornerbacks can use that on the outside as opposed to playing in the slot as well. And that's something to consider too. But okay, I actually was going to, ask at some point in this how you thought maybe the snap counts would play out for the receivers behind DK Metcalf. So you think Scotty Miller will play the second most snaps of the receivers then? Or when you say start, you're not really sure how it shakes out from there?
Yeah, I mean, I think they'll probably end up fairly equal. But yeah, I think Scotty will get the second most snaps among wide receivers. Yeah.
Okay. Jalen Ramsey listed as questionable. I don't know how you feel about that. I feel like we've been on the same train of thought this whole week where he's not going to play Sunday. However, he could be in that rare space where if he gets in a limited practice or so, maybe we do see him be able to be out for this game, but return for a Thursday night on a short week.
Yeah, I could absolutely see him playing against the Bengals. Not saying he won't play against the Browns. I just question, I think if it wasn't a Thursday night game on the other side of this, it would be a little different. And he even admitted that when he talked to Brennan today, said, yeah, it matters. Like the next game's a Thursday night game and you don't get the benefit of a full rehab. And when you're talking about a soft tissue injury, it would not be that hard for him to go play in this game and then decide 3 days later that he can't play again against the Bengals. And I feel like that's the worst case scenario, right? Like if you're going to play one of those two games, play against Cincinnati. There isn't another, They don't need him against the Browns. Not to say the Browns aren't capable of winning this game, but the Browns are not a matchup problem in the way the Bengals are.
Yeah, I mean, very different matchup for them to face. Say what you will, obviously, about the Bengals and their problems. That receiver group is not the reason that they're in the position that they're in. That is the strength of that football team. So obviously, you would like to have Jalen Ramsey for that one. But that's kind of it, right? Everybody else good to go that we've talked about with injuries. Alex Highsmith, good to return. Joey Porter Jr., good to return. Jalen Warren, good to return.
Yeah, now I don't know about reps for all those. I would expect if Ramsey doesn't play, Porter's going to play the whole game. I mean that unless he can't. How will the breakdown of snaps at running back go? I mean, Kenneth Gainwell obviously played well enough to continue to play a little bit at least. I would be surprised if we see 30 carries for Jalen Warren. And then outside linebacker. I mean, we've talked a lot about how they can or should find ways to continue to get Nick Herbig involved now that Highsmith's back. I would actually expect this to be a game where Alex Highsmith, again, with the short week coming, does not get to his usual snap count. I would assume that we will see him play something a little bit short of that in this game. He played 90% or 89% of the team snaps in the opener against the Jets. I don't see that happening this week.
Yeah, I don't either. And I think, again, I mentioned this
before. Of course, Herbig was hurt for that game, so you didn't have.
Yeah, that's true. But I think bringing up Herbig now, I mentioned this earlier in the week, but I feel like his placement on the roster too, what he's been able to do, also allows you to kind of operate that way with Highsmith. Because if he wasn't on this roster, I'm not saying you're all systems go. You got to take into consideration the injury and being on a short week and everything too. I just think it makes the decision a lot easier to dial the reps back and ease him back into it when you have Herbig as the other guy in the mix. So we'll get to the preview predictions of this Browns game here in a second, but we've had some questions kind of sitting out there for a little bit that we haven't gotten to. Obviously, I haven't been on the show consistently this week, just batting 60%, 3 out of 5, not good enough for me. I'll make it up to you guys. But Drew Johnson, our guy here
on the Pirates at 3 for 5.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, pretty much any team, to be honest with you. That's ridiculous. 2 for 5, and I'd be the best hitter Well, everybody besides Aaron Judge. Drew Johnson here said, "Hey, Alan, love the content being put out by Steelers Now, but I have to admit something. This season, the Steelers are 3-0 when I only listen to the afternoon drive and morning rush, and 0-1 when I listen to anything else." All right, so I mean, sorry to hear for the night shift and Pelusi Pickums, but it sounds like Drew's got his what he's got to do here for the Steelers to win, and personally, I'm okay with it. So
yeah, you got to do what you got to do in that case. I mean, the evidence is clear.
Yeah, I have to keep doing my part. I think a topic worth discussing would be wide receiver trade and what they'd be willing to give up for a certain wide receiver caliber. Obviously, we know they don't want to give up picks, but what is the degree into which they won't? Just throw this example out there. If Howie Roseman called Omar, said we'd get A.J. Brown for a second-round pick, we won't even bother calling other teams.
Do it.
That's
do it.
Would they do that right then? Would it be a pick worthy of making? No, I don't think that the Eagles are trading AJ Brown. I can already hear you saying that after Zach would ask this question. I guess what is the draft capital tiers for wide receiver tiers that you think is potentially on the table?
Yeah, if somebody's going to give you AJ Brown, you do it. I don't care what the cost is or whatever. I talked with Carter yesterday about this a good bit. I am fairly skeptical of an impactful wide receiver trade happening. There are just not that many guys out there that I think will be available that mean anything. It would have to be something that means something for them to be willing to part with a draft pick. The status of their comp picks, it's not great. Najee Harris basically wash out. Russell Wilson, not going to get better. It doesn't look like. James Daniels.
Yeah, why couldn't see? That's why I wanted Cincinnati to trade for him. Like, it had nothing to do with anything else other than him getting back on the field for the comp pick purposes.
There you go. Yeah, and so I don't really think, like, I mean, Jacoby Myers, I guess, but like we talked about with Carter, like I just, if you're to the point where you got the fans up in arms about being unable to find Pat Freiermuth and Johnny Smith, who are probably, I mean, the Steelers' second and third most talented receivers, maybe third and fourth. I don't know where you put Calvin Austin in that group, but at worst, top four in terms of receiving options.
Mm-hmm.
And they've got games where they're barely playing. I don't know how you think that a wide receiver, even though it's a clear need, I think the offense would have to show Omar something between now and the trade deadline that is really gonna matter. Like, if you're not getting the ball to the ones you got, how is adding to that gonna help?
And I think that's why a couple weeks ago I brought this up, and I was having a hard way of, I guess, trying to like ask it in a specific way, like the way that I'm thinking about it, because I agree there's clearly a lack in the wide receiver room, but like, because of the way that they are operating offensively, like, how different would it be even if there was somebody else in that room? And that's why I said, is the lack of another wide receiver option really what's holding this offense back, this passing game specifically?
No, I don't think so. I think it's way more than that. I mean, it's about the offensive line. It's about the physical limitations of a 41-year-old quarterback. And yeah, it's about the lack of overall receiving talent. Like, it's all those things. And I think if you could solve the wide receiver problem for multiple years, like if you get Jacoby Myers and you're assigned to a 3-year contract, you're like, that's our wide receiver too.
Mm-hmm.
Then okay, like, I guess I'm on board with doing it. It is a problem, right? But like rental, I'm not sure I get down with rental being a thing they should be.
And it's a hard trade to make for a rental, because then the other side of it's looking at it like, oh, again, bringing the comp pick formula into things, like, you got to make it worthwhile on the other side. I know that they would have to wait another year potentially to get that draft pick, but that's why it takes two to tango. It's hard to make trades in the NFL, quite frankly. A name that was brought up, another rental though, Rashid Shaheed. A lot of people have thrown that name our way. He'd be an interesting fit just because he's the just go deep guy. Like, it doesn't run every route on the tree. Obviously has burners, stretches the field. The Steelers could certainly benefit from his ability to stretch the field, and you get the ball in his hands and he makes a lot of guys miss. So So he'd be an interesting fit, but also a rental. Chris Olave's name, same team, also been thrown out there. I don't know. I'm with you. I'm not sure that any of those come to fruition.
I mean, if you can get a guy like Shaheed for like a 5th round pick, I mean, I think you do that.
Right, but
I don't think a player of that caliber comes with a lot of expectations in terms of getting the ball. So, like, I don't think that's not a big deal to me. But I do wonder if you like even if you could get a really good wide receiver too, who was only a rental, I would really think twice about that at this point. In terms of like what they'd be willing to give up in draft capital, like they're not going to be willing to give up anything. I think they will make a deal if they think it makes sense. They don't want to give up any of it. They would really like to not trade a draft pick. And I think the most likely outcome is that they won't.
Yeah. Like for anything, because I guess receiver would probably be the first area that we look at.
I would be really surprised if they trade anything beyond like a throwaway draft pick, like a 6th or 7th rounder.
The only other thing that I have to mention from the YouTube community before we get to preview predictions, we'll get to other questions that we got if we have the ability to do so. But the one that I have to mention, Steven 116th gave us $2 and said, I missed the funny one. Now, I was the one that wasn't here, so I can only assume Steven was talking about me. Miss you guys too, but glad to be back. I'll do my best to make sure it doesn't happen again. For as bad as I've felt, and I'm still not 100% clearly, as long as I would have been here if I had my voice yesterday. It's the only reason I wasn't here. So I'm back. Anyways, all right, let's get to some preview predictions. By the way, this will play into my bold predictions. I really think there's one guy specifically on the Steelers team that would enjoy what I'm wearing right now. You talked about him on the Morning Rush. I think Juan Thornheil would appreciate the Steelers peeing on the Browns.
I love those. There's something like hearteningly immature about the like idea of just know what, just pee on them. Yeah, that's how you want to get. How do you want to show your disdain for the Cleveland Browns? Let's whip it out and take a leak.
Cam Sutton wore this same thing into the stadium when they played the Browns a few years ago.
That was right after the Garrett Rudolph helmet incident.
Okay. So that
was when they came back to Pittsburgh, I think, then a couple weeks later.
Okay, so 2019.
Yeah.
All right, so let's get to the preview predictions of this one. Alan, this is such an interesting matchup to me because the Browns defense is going to keep them in a lot of games. I don't think this is a very good football team, but just because of styles make fights and it's AFC North football and their defense is so good, despite them not being a very good football team, I think a lot of Steelers fans do have some concern that this could be one that they would drop. The Browns have not won in Pittsburgh in a very long time. What is the sense that you've kind of gotten like if you've gotten similar vibes you feel like from the fan base that I do, that they are a little bit scared of this matchup, even though this isn't a very good football team?
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think the Steelers feel that too. Like this is not a good football team, but it is a difficult matchup for the Steelers. It's also a game where I think both teams are going to want to try to play a close to the vest game. I think you're going to see a lot of rushing attempts into stacked boxes from both teams. I think you're going to see a lot of just short possessions, short number of possessions. A lot of run, pass, punt kind of football. And I think when you have that, that's an okay game plan. But it only takes like one or two weird things to happen for you to lose. Right? Like if the whole idea is just like, we're just a little bit better than them, keep it close, lean on them, and eventually we'll win. Like that's how your rookie kickoff returner screws up and then you lose. Right? Like that. Like it only takes one weird thing to happen, really, to blow open a close game like that. And you have a really talented defensive player on the other side of the field that can do that. They have a couple of breakaway offensive talents that can, take an innocent looking pass to the house if somebody trips and falls or something like that. Jerry Jeudy and David Njoku and Quinshon Judkins, that's not the world's scariest trio of offensive weapons, but all those guys are capable of hurting you if something silly, two defenders collide and also there goes Njoku for a 90-yard touchdown and the game, turns on its ear. And it's like, this is why the idea of when you're trying to build a team is you want to have that dynamic offense. You want to look at a matchup against a team like the Browns and say, we can run away from these guys. But I'm not sure that the Steelers should feel that way right now.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's definitely interesting when you look at it from that perspective. You said that the team feels that way. I'm more so curious on maybe diving into that a little bit, like conversations you've had this week, guys talking about feeling that way, or
yeah, I just think there's a seriousness to the preparation for this game that doesn't always happen when you're talking about a bad team. It doesn't feel like they're getting ready to play a bad team. It feels like, and part of that is the bye too, I think probably, because you've had so long to, essentially, what is it, like 5 days worth of 6 days worth of work. And that's probably part of it too. But like, it really does feel like they've really closely paid attention to individual personnel matchups. I think it being a division game too helps that as well, because you kind of know that this game is setting up the next one, right? So like, if you're playing the Saints, a bad team, clearly, and you know you're not going to see them again for 4 years, you're trying to get through that week, like, I don't want to say doing the least, but like, you're not trying to waste additional effort on learning more about the Saints, right? Like, you just need to know what you need to know. But like, when it comes to the Browns, the knowledge that you're going to see them again, and the fact that you have all this extra time with the bye, means that, like, I think they've really just dug in on the Browns and trying to, to a way that, like, you probably wouldn't get of an average bad opponent, based on the combination of it's a bye and also, like, you're going to see him again. So there's a double benefit to that extra time you're spending.
Yeah. And I think this Browns defense, and this is where I want to go next, is so interesting because they are good. We've talked about their defensive coordinator, Schwartz, in the past, going from, playing a Brian Flores defense to this one, another very good unit. I don't know that they do as many different, like, exotic things. And I think that they're a more talented group than Minnesota. But you look at the results, second in yards, fourth in passing yards allowed, first in rushing yards allowed, 22nd in points. I think you can put a lot of blame and onus on the offense for that, though, as well. But where they can get got here, and what I think is interesting, they are 25th in third down percentage. And when I look at what the Steelers have done so well, very good in third down and short situations, very good in the red zone. So, when it gets to those money downs, the Steelers seem to excel. And that is one area where it's been a little bit of a weakness for the Browns defense.
Well, you look at their coverage guys, and I don't see, like, Denzel Ward and Grant Delpit are very good. And they just traded for Tyson Campbell, who is not that good. They got Dom Jones, who's an undrafted rookie. Miles Harden was a 7th round pick last year, and Devin Bush at linebacker. Like, they're so dependent on the pass rush getting home. And I think that makes it hard when they aren't able to keep teams in third and long. When you get in third and manageable against this defense, I think they're pretty easy to deal with. It's when they get to third and long that they're really a bear, and you can really let Garrett and Graham come after the quarterback. Shelby Harris, Mike Hall's not going to play in this game, but he's a talented player too. They're also going to attack the Steelers differently than most teams have. The Steelers have been seeing a lot of cover two. The Browns are probably not going to do that. At least if they stick true to their priors, they're going to play man-to-man. One high safety man-to-man. And so I think this will be a game where you see more deep passes from Aaron Rodgers. Now, he's not going to take 7-step drops. It's going to be chucking it up there, throwing it off your back foot deep passes, I think, maybe. But I think because I think you are going to see a lot more man-to-man. And I think this has the potential to be a big game for the Steelers in the passing game if they can stay out of third and long and they can protect Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, that'll play into my bold prediction on the offensive side, which I mean, very bold when we get there. You'll see based off what we've seen happen up to this point with the Steelers passing attack, but definitely curious to see on that. What about in terms of the running back usage? Obviously, we talked about you think like Alex Highsmith could be kind of eased back into the fold. Jalen Warren coming off an injury of his own, missing that game in Dublin. And you saw Kenny Gainwell have the performance he did. Do you think they should go back to just status quo for the running back rotation, or do you think that they feel comfortable enough to say like Gainwell earned more time there, and we know that Warren's playing, but not exactly 100%?
I think it'll very much be a hot hand situation, but I think it's possible that Gainwell could pretty significantly eat into Warren's touches here. I actually was recording Pelosi's Pick'em last night. I have Jalen Warren in fantasy. She asked me sit or start Jalen Warren. I said sit, and now I'm starting him again. Like I can't decide. I don't think it's I don't think it's going to be a normal workload, but I also like in terms of his percentage. But I think they're going to run the ball a lot because I don't think they want Myles Garrett teeing off, and so I'm very much seeing a 3 yards and cloud of dust kind of game for both offenses, really.
Yeah. I almost wonder, and I've said this so many times, I hate to keep going back to the well, but when I look at what the Browns do best, they're very good at stopping the run, and they're very good at getting after the quarterback. And I think the best way to slow down that pass rush is getting guys on screens. I wonder if Jalen Warren, Kenny Gainwell could end up making more plays and extensions of the run game as opposed to just the traditional run game.
Yeah, no, that's a good shout.
Flipping the script here, talking about the Steelers defense going against the Browns offense. I mean, the strength of the Steelers going against what's not a very good unit. We know Quinshon Judkins has been very good, and I'm not necessarily surprised because of the talent that Quinshon Judkins is, but this is a guy that just, was going through some legal stuff, didn't go through training camp, and then just showed up and has been playing fantastic ever since putting on the uniform. Rookie quarterback and Dylan Gabriel, who made his debut last week, didn't turn the football over. Don't know that I was necessarily overly impressed by anything that he did. Just one completion, over 10 air yards in that game. What do you make of this Browns offensive unit going against the Steelers defense?
Yeah, it starts up front. They have a good offensive line. I mean, at least left guard through right tackle and Batonio Pocic. Teller and Conklin, those guys have been there forever. KT Leviston is playing left tackle now. Came over in a trade with the Rams.
Well, they were rotating him and Cam Robinson. I'm curious to see if
Cam Robinson
traded for Robinson.
Trade also. Yeah, I don't know which one's going to play more. Of course, they're in because DeJuan Jones is injured. I feel like he's always hurt. At least every time the Steelers play.
Two season-ending knee injuries. Yeah.
Yeah. They have a good offensive line, and that does so much for you. I think it's the reason that Judkins is able to come in and hit the ground running. I think it's the reason that you didn't see Dylan Gabriel doing a lot of the crazy runaround stuff that you saw him do in college to his detriment. And so I think it's a unit that can play safe football. I don't think they have a lot of downfield threats. I mean, the wide receiver group beyond Jerry Jeudy is basically non-existent. Jamari Thrash and Isaiah Bond don't scare anyone. And the tight ends are good, Harold Fannin and David Njoku, but they haven't really used Fannin that much. And so it's just a limited offense that isn't going to do a lot. I really think that the Steelers can get to Dylan Gabriel. He's shown in the past that he will try to extend plays and make mistakes. And I think they can really get him there. He's also short, and the Steelers love to get their hands up. I think that's
nothing against short people. But...
Yeah, I mean, lots against short people at the position of quarterback in the NFL, not just not in general. And so I think this should be a feast for the Steelers defense. They're going to have to defend the run, probably their toughest test since Breece Hall. And so this will be a nice measuring stick to see if they really got better, if they just face opponents that were worse at running the football.
Yeah. I mean, you mentioned the receiving talent. You look at the underlying numbers, even their best wide receiver on paper, Jerry Jeudy, has not been having a very good season, ton of drops, not a lot of production, not even separating as well as he was at one point. Their best separator right now is Harold Fannin. I'm curious to see how you think they're going to handle the dual tight ends of David Njoku and Harold Fannin, what that game plan will be.
Harold Fannin is a good receiver. He doesn't block very well.
Yes.
And neither does Njoku, really. I mean, he's gotten better over the years, but he's more of a receiver too. Those guys are basically extra receivers. My real question will be, without Jalen Ramsey, can the Steelers play nickel against 12 personnel? Or will they feel the need to go heavier, even though those guys aren't really blocking threats? That's a really interesting part of this matchup, because I think the Steelers' intention this whole offseason was to be able to play nickel against 12 personnel because they had Jalen Ramsey as the slot corner. Do they feel that way about Brandon Echols? And if not, then what? Who is defending? Is it Thornhill on one of those guys then? Because I think that's an advantage to Cleveland if it is.
I would agree. Yeah, I don't anything else to say about that matchup before we get into the predictions.
Don't sleep on Jerome Ford out of the backfield. Really good receiver and a guy who can really make you pay for like over pursuing things. I feel like he has
Dylan Sampson's a good receiver too.
Yeah,
I'm curious to see how.
I feel like there's always a 10 to 15 yard gain somewhere to be had with that check down game. Those two guys are good.
Yeah. Yeah, I mentioned obviously singing the praise of Quinshon Judkins as a runner, but they've still leaned on those guys on third down as their pass catching backs and rely on them and more in pass pro as well. All right, let's get to some predictions here. We can go back and forth on the offense and defense before we get to the game prediction. Talked a lot about him, Juan Thornhill. He's going to come into mind here as my defensive bold prediction. We did a Juan Thornhill splash play. So I don't know if it's going to be an interception, forced fumble, something of that nature. He's going to leave his stamp on this game against the Browns. I think he has to. And I can't wait. If he does this, we win. Very excited for what the post game in the locker room looks like for you guys and also on social media.
And just coming off the field. He said he was talking about Renegade. He's going to have the crowd going. I like that. Ours could actually go together.
Okay.
I'm interception on a tip pass. I think.
Okay. Oh, yeah. I mean, we talked about how, with Dylan Gabriel's height and everything like that, and Steelers get their hands on the ball a ton regardless. I mean, Carson Wentz is like, 8 inches, 7, 8 inches taller than Dylan Gabriel, and they were tipping passes against him. So,
yeah, interception on a tip pass. Maybe it'll be Juan Thornhill. There you go. But that's my bold prediction for the Steelers defense.
Okay. Give me one for offense.
I am going with, I think this will be the game that Aaron Rodgers uncorks a deep ball. I will say DK Metcalf touchdown over 20 air yards.
Okay. All right. When you said, I think this is going to be the game that Aaron Rodgers, I thought you were going to go a different direction and it would go along with mine here. I'd like to think that this is bold. I'm putting a group together, so maybe a little bit of a cheat here. I'm going to say the Steelers tight ends have a total of 10 plus catches in this game combined.
I think I'm not sure that's that bold, but I like it.
Pat, Jonnu, Darnell, Connor, they all can count for this. 4 different guys given 10 plus catches.
All right. I don't know how bold that is, but I think it's a good.
That's why. I mean, I'd like to go back. I'll do this as we're finishing.
How about throw in and a touchdown?
Oh, okay. All right, I'll sign off on it. I'll adjust it and a touchdown.
Because I think that gets you to. I think that clearly gets you to bold.
Okay. I almost went with a yardage thing along with it too, but I'm
yardage.
like, where should I go? Where should I go with that?
You do 100 yards. That'd be pretty bold.
It's like they're combined one player, 10 catches, 100 yards, and a touchdown for the tight ends. They make up one guy. All right, and then final score predictions. Go ahead.
One 17-foot tall, 1,000-pound tight end.
Yeah, it's not even like a freak the mighty situation because they're big dudes. So it's not like a big dude stacking a small dude. Like that's Darnell with Calvin Austin, but this is a different situation.
Yeah.
All right, final score prediction. I think that, like you're kind of alluding to, I'm curious to see where your score prediction is just based off the way you talked about this game. I think it definitely starts out slow. I think at some point the Steelers do have some answers for the Browns defense. I'm not saying that they're going to light up the scoreboard by any means, but I think it's a pretty comfortable win when it's all said and done. I think we're not on the edge of our seats in the final 10 minutes of the ball game in the fourth quarter. I'm going to go 23-13 Pittsburgh.
I have a closer game, but I think much of the same things that we're talking about here. I don't think we're far off. I do see a closer game. I just think I don't think there will be enough big plays for the Steelers. And I think this will be a very frustrating first half. I think this game could be like a 1-point game at halftime, and that wouldn't really surprise me. I might even look and see what the Browns' first half is. That might be a good bet.
Ooh.
But I'll take the Steelers to win this game 20-16.
Okay. 20-16 Steelers. I got 23-13 Steelers. Apparently DB has already given his prediction somewhere. He said on the night shift he put out his prediction. I don't know. DB wasn't on here a couple weeks ago. It seems like Fridays with DB are a little bit more up in the air now. We had to do his prediction via pre-recorded video a couple weeks ago. I don't know what's going on with that guy, but we'll see if we'll
let him slide. We appreciate him and Aaron Becker for both filling in on night shift.
Brennan for filling in for me on here. Carter. It was a different week for sure.
Yeah, we had to mix things up this week for sure.
I hope that doesn't happen next week. Not to say that I don't, love and appreciate everybody for chipping in, but this is my time to shine on the afternoon drive. So it's just supposed to be Alan and I, and DB's on Friday. But all right, good stuff. Anything else to say about this one?
No, that's it. I'm looking forward to this one. I think it's gonna be a fun game.
I hope so. I feel like just such a weird start to the season with a bye week already, a home game taking place in Ireland. They've only been at home once so far, and it's week 6. So definitely looking forward to being back in the stadium. All right, Alan, tell people they can find you.
Saunders _PGH on X, Instagram, TikTok, and Blue Sky. PGH Steelers Now sites account, SteelersNow.com. Go there and read the words so I can get paid. Sign up for SN Plus, and you get to read the words without ads, which is way better. And you also get all the best content from me, DB, Brendan Howe, the rest of the Steelers Now team, and access to our subscribers-only live stream, which will be coming up in the month of October. Potentially pretty soon. I don't know. We'll see when we can get the guys.
It hasn't been. I'm going to say probably we would have maybe started to discuss it this week. I wasn't
this
around.
This week was just such a mess.
Yeah,
I might shoot for like early in the week of the 20th because we have that Thursday night game the week before, so that should be a good time. We'll see when we can get together. And of course, anyone can like, subscribe, hit that bell for notifications here on the YouTube channel. It helps us grow this show and all the rest of our shows, which we talked about a lot on this episode, as we look to find a bigger and bigger audience. And you guys have really done that. 16,838. That's Michael Walker getting a linebacker at number 38. Feels like quite the achievement there.
Yeah, there's got to be some bad running backs. And I know I've used this one before, but I know Edmonds when he came back, the second stint, Terrell Edmonds. Jalen Samuels would have worn 38.
There you go.
I said bad running back, but I mean, he was the Steelers Rookie of the Year in 2018, so don't take anything away from him. Probably speaks more to that draft class than anything else, but
couple of running backs that come to mind, fullbacks come to mind. Tim Worley and John Whitman, both were 38. Tim Worley.
Tell me, did Stephen Ridley wear 38 or just 22?
I think he did wear 38. That sounds correct. He had two. He came in at the end of 2 different seasons, right? Is that how that worked? Came in 17, and then came back in a different year. It wasn't like one straight stretch, right? Am I remembering that correct?
So the Jalen Samuels game was in 2018. I'm fairly certain Stephen Ridley was his backup in that game. So definitely in 18. Okay. Maybe, if the same thing happened in maybe that's why he had 38 in one of those years. I'm not sure.
Yeah, looking here at the list, a couple other running backs. Noah Herron. Kerry Davis was a fullback on the Super Bowl 43 team. Daryl Richardson. Wow, that's a deep cut. Man, did not have that. Yeah. John Simon was a linebacker, played one freaking game. Yeah. I did not remember him being number 38, but he was he's from Ohio, Youngstown, Cardinal Mooney High School. Played one game for the Steelers fairly recently. I don't remember, maybe 2021. Man, that's one of those like that's a real
55, I believe, with the Patriots.
Yeah, maybe 51 with the Titans, because he played with the Titans right before he played, because he was with Rabel with the Titans right before he came to Pittsburgh.
Okay.
I think he's one of the very few guys we do not like. Ed gets a picture of literally everyone. I think he's one of the very few guys that was just here for such a short time that we never got a picture of him in the Steelers uniform.
Dang.
So maybe that's why
to reach out to him and be like, hey, can you model this jersey real quick so we can get a picture of you? So when we randomly bring you up on an afternoon drive, we can reference it. All right, good stuff. Like Alan said, like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, leave us a 5-star review and subscribe. If you're listening somewhere else, Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast from, we are there. Just search Steelers Afternoon Drive. Do the same thing on TikTok. Then you'll find me everywhere, Zachary Smith, PGH, Alan Saunders, and myself. Thanks for jumping in. Take another ride on the Steelers Afternoon Drive.